What questions do you have off of the homework before we get started? Number 12, okay. Any others that we have questions about?
Whoa.
Just want to make it a little bit easier to see. So number 12,
15.
15,
Oh, I got a problem.
okay. I do want to make a note. Some of us got 4.5 instead of 5s on the homework because we did not justify it all. Notice how I'm talking about the inverse of multiplication, talking about that property of inequality. I really should have also talked about the identity elements here. But you need to justify those things, right? Divided by a -5, because that's the inverse of multiplication, is creating a 1. And then I had to use that property of inequality, and that's why I reversed the direction of less than to greater than. Okay? Hopefully, we're pretty good at graphing on the number line, but number 12. So number 12 is a little bit more complicated. Can y'all see this orange marker, or should I switch to something else?
Unscalable.
What do you say, Caroline?
So I can see it.
You can say fine, we're good? Okay. So, I mean, you can already see the work there. There's a few different things to do, but overall, it's still just an inequality. In order to solve an inequality, we want our variable to be on how many sides of the inequality?
Both.
You're done solving when the variable is on both?
No, one side.
Remember, we want a variable on one side, a constant on the other side of the inequality. And so we have to think about our inverses to approach that. We need to think also about simplifying. Personally, I am always going to simplify. Then I'm going to use inverses to solve. You don't have to, but that's personally what I'm going to do. So what was the first step I took in solving this inequality?
Distribute.
Yeah. That's really where I started, right? So we wanted to recognize that we can distribute, we can combine like terms, things like that. There's a few different things that we could do here now. You'll notice that I subtracted by 4 because that's going to create a 0 right here. But what else could I do other than subtracting by 4? Is there anything else I could do?
Distribute the 2.
I already did.
Oh.
And 6x.
Right, so we want to also notice, hey, I could add 6x to both sides of the inequality. So a couple things to notice. What is negative 6x plus 6x? 0, right? I'm trying to create that identity, that 0, because 4 plus 0 is 4. So why did I add 6x to the other side of the inequality?
One side, got the
What's that called though?
Properties of something.
inequalities.
Notice it's an inequality, so it's a property of inequality, right? So why do we use those properties? Like, what's the real reason that we have to do it? Like, y'all know, whatever I do to one side of the inequality, I have to do to the other, but why is that? And why is it sometimes we reverse the direction of the inequality and other times we don't?
If you don't, it's
The
wrong.
X not so. Maybe, I don't know.
Can we all agree 8 is less than 12?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So if I add 4 right here, I now get 12. Is 12 less than 12?
No.
Why not?
It's
It's equal to, but also, did I use a property of inequality? So if I add 4 on one side of the inequality, I need to add it to the other. Now is 12 less than 16?
Yes.
Yeah. So notice also how far apart are 8 and 12?
4.
How far apart are 12 and 16?
4.
So those properties of inequality don't just, it's not just, hey, you do this thing or you get it wrong, it's maintaining the equivalency of the inequality. Okay? But that is also why, okay, so if I divide by -2, I also have to divide by -2 on the other side. But now, -4, is that less than -6? No. So to maintain the equivalency, I have to reverse the direction, right? So it's that idea of we're not just whatever we do to one side we do to the other, it's maintaining the equivalency, meaning it looks different, but it's effectively the same, okay? So 4x plus 6x is 10x. Now because of that, I need to subtract 6, and again I'm creating that 0 property of inequality to make sure it stays equivalent.
That's a lot, right?
It's really not.
That was just like everything mixed up, different colors.
Um,
Hard to pay attention.
Gotcha. I'm trying to separate it so you can see the different steps. Now, on top of that, I do agree it's kind of hard. So negative 1/5 is less than or equal to x. Is that the same as x is greater than or equal to negative 1/5? Yeah. If I reverse that inequality. Okay, Anthony, were you the one asked about number 12? Does that answer your questions there? Okay. Now, McKay, you asked about number 15. So solve the following equation for C. So I want to point this out, this is known as a literal equation. You will not get a final, hey, C is equal to this number, because there's two variables. But if I want to solve for this C right here, what do I need to do?
Divide by negative, not negative, 5,
Subtract.
divide by 9.
No, because that's
Let me say this, there
Isn't
are,
this C's less than 9/5? So it's like, it would be like,
Reverse.
for example, 8x. So you would subtract the 32 to the other side from F.
why, do you remember why that is?
Well, what it is.
Why we're going to subtract 32 first? And also I do want to clarify, you don't have to subtract 32 first. Okay, there are multiple ways to approach this. The simplest way, though, is to read it like a story. What's happening first to C?
And multiplied by 9 divided by 5.
What's then happening to 9/5 C?
Then add 32.
Then it's added by 32. It is easiest to undo the last thing being done. Right? The way I used to explain it to my students as freshmen in Algebra 1 is, if you were at a party and you were trying to get at, like, to talk to someone that was in the center of a circle of friends, it's pretty hard to just reach into the center and pull them out. It's easier to grab someone on the outside of the circle, pull them away, then pull someone else away, right? So you're starting on the outside, trying to get in to the thing on the inside, right? But it's also just, hey, here's that multiplication, that's happening first, then I'm adding 32. So that's what I'm going to undo first. Notice that's really simple, because what's 32 minus 32?
0. It's like a Tootsie Pop.
Yes. How many licks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop? Now what am I going to do at this point? Yeah?
Put an equal sign.
Put a grease.
Say again?
Put a grease sign.
Why? It was an equal sign. Right?
That's the equation.
I can't just change it. Have I solved for C though? Am I done?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You have C equals?
No,
No.
you gotta flip them.
What do you mean?
It was
God.
I mean, I don't have C
Inverse.
completed on its own.
No.
Inverses.
Okay, inverses. So Caroline, what were you saying?
No reciprocal 9/5.
Which would be?
5/9.
So if I multiply by 5/9, what's 9 divided by 9? 1, right? 5 divided by 5,
1.
right? And so,
5 equals 9.
but just remember it has to be done to the entire thing. So C would equal 5/9.
So with F.
Hopefully we recognize that. That's the conversion from Celsius to, or Fahrenheit to Celsius.
So that negative 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
No. We're subtracting. So if you take Fahrenheit and you subtract by 32 degrees, and then multiply by 5/9, you get degrees Celsius. Never heard that in a science class?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, that is the conversion. What I do want to point out though is, Oh, by the way, also, instead of multiplying by the reciprocal, you could have just divided by 9/5. I highly recommend multiplying by the reciprocal though. Overall, it will help you significantly.
That's what I tried to do.
Divide,
Yeah.
like from here though?
No, wait, not from the beginning.
Okay, so what I will say is, again, you can divide by that 9/5, but notice if you haven't gotten rid of that 32 yet, you'd have to divide everything by 9/5. I assume none of us want to do that. Is that a fair assessment?
That would take
Yeah.
a lot longer time to solve.
Okay.
That's fair.
Also notice you could multiply by 5/9 here, but notice how I can't just multiply this by 5/9, I'd have to multiply everything by 5/9. Again, that's not what I would personally want to do, I just want you to see that you can do it. Notice you would get 9/5 times 5/9, C, because I distributed, but then it would be plus 32 times 5/9, which would come out to be 169. Now I'd have to subtract by 169.
It just takes way too long.
But that's what I wanted you to see. And so notice that is actually equivalent to this if you distribute that 5/9. That's why I wanted you to see that it is easiest to, okay, here's my variable, what's happening to it first, then what's happening to it, and then undo the last thing first. Like this to me is a much easier approach versus that's a monstrosity. Doable, correct,
But it's a monster to do.
it's a monster to do. It's like, but that's why in mathematics we want to think about what is the most efficient strategy to get through everything.
I'm gonna
I'd
do
like
it that
to
way
do.
next time,
This way or that way?
that way.
This one over here?
I like to,
Go for it. It works.
I like to conquer the monsters.
Cool, go for it.
Swag.
Okay, so 4.6, taking sides, we're going to relaunch this. I think we'll get close to the end today. Just be aware, we will be having an understanding check tomorrow on solving inequalities, which is 4.4 to 4.6. It's just an understanding check to see where we are. So, trying to remember. Oh, Mr. Lippum modified it. So it started out where y'all just were solving some inequalities, but then it was where, I'd have to find a copy of it. But it was where y'all solved like a page worth of inequalities, and then on the back side you looked at what's
Where is it?
greater 4x or
420.
whatever. Yeah. So it's that sheet right there.
Are you recording?
Yes, right now I am.
Good.
Hi, recording.
Okay.
Lovely.
Okay.
You just got buddies.
So just as a quick reminder of where we stopped, Joaquin and Serena were working together productively in their math class. They both contributed to thinking, and when they disagreed, they both gave reasons and decided together who was right. In their math class right now, they are working on inequalities. Recently, they had a discussion that went something like this, right? So Joaquin, the problem says that 6 less than the number is greater than 4. I think we should just follow the words and write it as 6 minus n is greater than 4, so on and so forth. And so they had a discussion about it and to figure out who was right. That's what we need to be having as well, is mediating these discussions, right? So they have these difference of opinions, explain who is correct and why. It's good critical thinking there involved. I believe,
Number 7.
yes, because I think everyone finished number 6 at the end. Does that sound right?
Yes.
So we moved on to number 7. Okay, I'm going to look at your number 6s to make sure we did all finish that before I get out of here, or before I get out of here, as I'm coming around to your groups first. And then we'll start on 7. Yeah, I'm out. Peace.
See ya.
Have fun for the rest of the day.
I'm so.
Yep, that's it. All right, go ahead and get to work within your small groups. I'll turn the lights on so that we're not tempted to fall asleep. I know no one in